Hello, friends. Move the sticks off and running here. Rapid reactions to day 2 of the 2024 NFL Draft. We had 69 picks here from rounds 2 and 3. Took it all the way from 33 to 100. Buffalo Bills made the first pick. It was Keon Coleman from Florida State. They got their wide receiver. And then the last pick of the day was the Washington Commanders, and they end up taking a bloodline, Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's younger brother. Okay, Bucky Brooks, Rhett Lewis here with you. Daniel Jeremiah just now getting off the set up in Detroit. He'll be back with us next week to put a bow on a phenomenal draft weekend. We've got 4 more rounds for you tomorrow. Day 3, 4 rounds, 4 through 7. But let's talk about what we loved here. Some of our favorite day 2 overall picks from rounds 2 and 3. What rings the bell for you, my friend?
Okay, so let's ring the bell with the first pick of the second round with Keon Coleman.
Sure.
The Buffalo Bills got rid of Stephon Diggs, and Brandon Beane went on he went on a thing saying, hey, I don't feel like we need a number 1 receiver. And so they bring in Keon Coleman to give them a big-body playmaker on the outside, someone who is a legitimate red zone weapon, someone who really specializes in making these circus catches down the field. For Josh Allen, to me, it's a nice fit because Josh Allen hasn't always been the most accurate passer, and what you do is you get a guy who expands the strike zone, gives them a big body to kind of fill out that wide receiver core. And when I think about what he could be at the next level, it reminds me a lot of Marcus Colson, being able to maybe be the big slot receiver to go with their 2 tight ends and give them just a different look. And remember, Joe Brady spent time in New Orleans. Remember, Joe Brady basically took the playbook from the New Orleans Saints before he went to LSU as their pass game coordinator. Maybe he has a way to unlock Keon Coleman that allows him to be a 100-catch guy at the next level.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually some Michael Thomas there, too. You know what I mean? Just a little bit more recent there for the New Orleans Saints. So certainly something to think about. Look, I mean, we're not going in order here. We'd be here all night, but I loved the second pick of the second round, and it was the Chargers trading up to get Ladd McConkey, who I thought could have ended up in the first round, but probably more of a second round, and he goes very quickly here on night 2. The Georgia technician, route craft specialist, and absolute stud athlete, 4.39 40. Ladd McConkey goes to the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert is going to love what Ladd McConkey does here. He's going to be exactly where Herbert expects him to be. He's going to get open, create separation, stays healthy. It's going to be a home run pick for Jim Harbaugh in the Chargers there. And our Daniel Jeremiah weighed in on that selection from the draft desk in Detroit.
I thought Ladd McConkey had a chance to hear his name called last night. His tape is impressive, and it wasn't just when you watched him when you were studying him. I almost noticed him more when I was watching all the corners in the SEC because I kept going through my notes. Great except against Georgia and McConkey. Really good except McConkey beat him. Struggled against McConkey. He is a big-time route runner with inside-outside flexibility. There is a route polish to his game that is as good as it gets in this draft class. In and out of breaks, very efficient, dropping his weight, creating separation, outstanding, reliable hands. The suddenness, this is not a quicker than fast wide receiver, which we love to say in scouting. He's got big time juice, legitimate 4.3 speed to get on top of coverage. Here he is, watch him go from a static stop position against the University of Florida and outrun everybody on the field. So that versatility, that route running polish, Justin Herbert lost a premier route runner in Keenan Allen. This is someone who can plug in on third downs and is going to be able to win one-on-one.
Okay, Bucky, look, as we start to kind of assess teams and as they put together their day 2 draft haul, man, one of my favorite teams over the last couple of years on day 2 picks has been the L.A. Rams. I thought Les Snead and his scouting side, they haven't had a first-round pick until this year since 2016. So they've had to be really good on day 2 and day 3, and I thought they knocked it out of the park again. Went and got Jared Verse at 19 in the first round for first-year defensive coordinator Chris Shula, helping make his job a little bit easier. Then they go back and team Verse up with his former Florida State teammate in Braden Fisk, another athletic specimen, but as an interior defensive lineman. I loved that. Then they come back and they get Blake Corum, the phenomenal touchdown machine out of Michigan and the national champion running back there to add to that running back group. They've been a more physical running team as of late. Obviously, Kyron Williams led that charge last year. Ronnie Rivers was a part of it, and now you add Blake Corum into that mix. I really loved what the Rams did today with their resources.
Yeah, I'll go with the entire draft haul. When you think about
Sure.
the Rams, you talk about Jared Verse, pairing him with his teammate Braden Fisk, getting him at the top of the second round, gives them more physicality, more athleticism and toughness on the line of scrimmage, and then to come back in the third round and get Blake Corum at running back. Everyone was excited about Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams was dominant last year for the Rams, missed some games and still put off over 1,000 yards. Well, now you add Blake Corum to the mix. You talk about a back-by-committee situation potentially. Blake Corum, to me, is an underrated running back. Love the vision, love the burst, love the physicality and toughness, and the nose for the goal line. He is someone that really, really stood out to me. So you talk about the Rams being a team that certainly got better. Well, let's go to the Green Bay Packers. And the Green Bay Packers stand out to me
Nabil.
because Adrian Cooper, linebacker, being able to take him at pick 45. Adrian Cooper, one of the fastest, most athletic linebackers, and then coming back and being able to pick up Marshawn Lloyd and Tyron Hopper, being able to continue to fill out that staff. So with the two linebackers, you talk about adding speed, adding explosiveness to the mix, and then Marshawn Lloyd being able to kind of backstop Josh Jacobs as they're revamping their running back room. This is a team that has now become more physical and dynamic in the backfield, and then I just love what those guys can do at linebacker when you think about Jeff Hafley's defense.
Yeah, good one there. I'll give you another team to think about. I thought Omar Khan did a phenomenal job. And again, you could lump in, what they did in round one when they went and got Troy Fautanu as he kind of started to slide a little bit and was available there for them to take at 20. Thought he might be gone a little bit earlier. But then they come back. They double down on offensive line. They get Zach Frazier, super tough dude. We saw the wrestling tape on our Draft Center show. You don't want to mess with Zach Frazier from West Virginia. And then they come back at the end of the third round, and they get Peyton Wilson, another wrestler, different weight classes, but, man, two tough dudes. Peyton Wilson, extreme value if he's able to stay healthy. That's the question. That's why he slid. But the pick in between there was Roman Wilson. I mean, good route runner, athletic, fast, tough, physical little frame, not the biggest dude, but, man, plays a little bit bigger. I love that pick to replace, Deontay Johnson, who they sent off to Carolina. Man, you put it all together. I thought Omar Khan did a great job.
Yeah, Omar Khan did a really good job. And what they're doing, and they're characteristics of franchises that always stand out when you watch who they draft and why they're so successful drafting. The one thing about the Steelers is when you're around people who have worked for the Steelers, they just talk about, is he a Steeler? They have to kind of fit the brand. And when you talk about Peyton Wilson and Roman Wilson, they certainly fit because the toughness is there, the IQ is there, but the production is also there. They don't miss often because they really stick to trying to evaluate the players on the tape and making sure that the tape shows that the player is a really good player, more so than looking at the workouts and those things.
Okay, we had a couple of cool moments in this draft. Obviously, the Michigan Wolverines started flying off the shelves on night two. In fact, we'll have a fun note from the Wolverines coming off the board and the positions who did not hear their names called on night one. They came off the board in round two and in a very intriguing order. We'll have that for you when we return right here on Move the Sticks. Okay, Red Lewis, Bucky Brooks back here with you as we continue wrapping up night two. I thought this was really kind of interesting, maybe an interest only me. Wide receivers and defensive tackles started coming off the board extremely fast in the second round. But then we didn't see a linebacker, we didn't see a running back, we did not see a safety come off the board, Bucky, on night one. On night two, Adrian Cooper was the first linebacker at pick 45 going to the Green Bay Packers. You mentioned you liked what they did here on day two of the draft. Then at pick 46, the very next selection, the Carolina Panthers made Jonathan Brooks the first running back off the board, so check two more positions. Couldn't possibly get the first safety off the board next, could we? Sure we did. At pick number 47, the New York Giants made Tyler Nubin the first safety off the board, the ball hawk and center fielder from Minnesota. Look, I thought all three really good fits, really good players, and they just happened to come off the board back to back to back.
Yeah, they just happened to come off the board back to back to back, and all really, really good players. And, the thing about when you're drafting on day two, like your team in theory, should be comprised of guys that are drafted in the first 2 days. You want to make sure that you get those picks right because those guys are going to be the nucleus of your team. And when you think about all of those guys going back to back to back, key roles that they will fill, opportunity to jump into starting roles if things go well, and they should be productive in each of those respective situations.
Trey Benson came off the board in the 3rd round from Florida State. We mentioned Blake Corum with the Rams. Marshawn Lloyd hit the Green Bay Packers draft, as you mentioned. So running backs did start to come off, but maybe not quite as fast as we thought they would. Jalen Wright is still available from Tennessee. Bucky Irving still available there. Ray Davis still available. So still plenty of good backs out there available to be picked. All right, let's talk best steal pick of the night. We may have already hit on one with Peyton Wilson going all the way down there at pick 98 to the Steelers.
Yeah, that's a great steal. But how about Cooper DeJean going to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah.
I know we talked about him. He's one of my favorite players, but I just think a lot of it is fit in scheme. How does the player fit into the scheme? Cooper DeJean fits into the scheme that the Philadelphia Eagles want to employ with Vic Fangio. And Vic Fangio demands instincts, intelligence, awareness, physicality, and toughness, where you can check off all those boxes with Cooper DeJean. And then I talked about him. I described him as a decathlete because he brings so much versatility to the table. I just think this defense gets smarter. When you think about Quinyon Mitchell being able to come on board as the 1st-round pick, Cooper DeJean coming in as the 2nd-round pick, how Vic Fangio has been able to get young players to play in this defense and play really well, to me, the Philadelphia Eagles have completely flipped their secondary, and it may flip their fortunes when it comes to the way the defense performs.
Yeah, that's a good one. Man, I wanted to call out the Detroit Lions. They doubled down at cornerback just like the Eagles did. I thought Ennis Rakestraw was a bit of a steal late 2nd round. Thought he might end up late 1st round. But I think the steal that I want to go to at this point is Junior Colson. 3rd round off-the-ball linebacker going back to reunite with Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, now to the Chargers. I loved that pick there at 69 with the Chargers. Okay. Biggest surprise that we saw today, which could be a selection or could be a name still out there on the board as we wrap up our rapid reacts here.
A name that's still out there on the board. So we've talked about Franklin a ton, but I'm going to say the guy that I'm a little surprised is still out there is Austin Booker from
Kansas.
KU. I just thought that his flashes as an athletic pass rusher, even though it was 1-year wonder type situation, I thought that maybe he would kind of sneak into the bottom of round 3, but I expect his name to be one of the first ones to come off the board when we open up the draft tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with you. A couple other names to kind of just a little surprise, mildly at this point, right? Because it might the wait might not last longer. But I think, look, Troy Franklin sticks out like a sore thumb. 40th overall player. Believe he was in for Lance Zierlein. Believe he was in DJ's top 50. Speedy wide receiver, vertical player from Oregon, but still out there and available after 100 selections. And then Jaden Hicks from Washington, one of the top safeties in this class. He was in your top 5, I believe, or just outside.
Just outside the top 5.
Yeah.
But he was in the conversation because there were a lot of people that were buzzing on him leading into the draft. Surprised that he's still out there. Athletic, long, physical, really intriguing traits.
TJ Tampa is still out there from Iowa State as well.
He's another one that caught buzz late.
Yeah.
Hasn't come to fruition in terms of the way people that were talking about him. But, yeah, when you get into the 4th round, so the 4th round is developmental round. These are the developmental players, the players that you think have an opportunity to eventually not only make the roster but crack the lineup, or they're players that have some issue that's plaguing them, whether it's medical, whether it's an off-field character concern, something like that, things where they've been penalized outside of their talents. That's why you'll see a run on players and some of the notable names that we're surprised they didn't go off. Those guys should come off the board within the first 10 to 15 picks.
Man, I think these running backs, Ray Davis, Will Shipley, Tyrone Tracy, they're going to come off, I think, pretty quick when we get this 4th round rolling here. Jalen Wright, probably right up there as well, who led all running backs in FBS and yards per carry this year for Tennessee. Mohamed Kamara is another one to think about as an edge rusher.
Another one.
Right up there with Austin Booker. I think you could look at Cade Stover and Theo Johnson as the tight ends, the next to come off the board. We did see Tip Ryman go. was Tip and Ben Sinnott. I think the only tight ends that I can recall.
Didn't
that
see
came off
Theo
the
Johnson.
board.
We haven't seen
Yeah.
any of the guys that we talked
Yeah.
about. And we knew the class wasn't what it's been in the past, but we thought some of the athletes would go.
Yeah.
The guys that really tested well, Theo Johnson in particular from Penn State. Hasn't happened yet. I would expect in the 4th round we'll see all of those guys kind of fly off the board.
Keep your eye on Malik Washington, too, the talented slot receiver from Virginia who led college football in receptions this year. So, again, just a couple of names to keep an eye on there as we get set for round. By the way, only position, well, outside of the specialist, that didn't hear a player called on day 2, quarterback.
Oh, that's right. We thought Spencer Rattler would be gone by now. We haven't seen that happen.
6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks. We didn't get another one in the next 88. So you think there was a little bit of a gap, but you're going to see, I bet you see Spencer Rattler and Michael Pratt from Tulane off the board in the 4th round. A couple of things to think about. Look forward to seeing you back here for Move the Sticks, a full draft recap next time we come to you next week. For Bucky Brooks, I am Rhett Lewis. Thanks to Nabil for running the show behind the glass. DJ will be back next week, and we will see you then here on Move the Sticks.